Psychologically speaking, when we observe everyday marital communication across cultures, societies, and age groups, one of the most repeated and almost universal patterns is the husband responding to his wife's questions with sounds like or prolonged silence. This behavior is so common that it has become a source of humor, memes, and jokes, but behind this simple sound lies a deep psychological, neurological, emotional, and social explanation. To understand this fully, we must first understand how the human brain processes language, emotion, stress, and social risk, and then see how male psychology, conditioning, and relationship dynamics combine to create this reaction. The human brain is not a single unit working uniformly. It is a collection of systems that activate differently depending on situation. When a wife asks a question, especially one that is emotionally loaded, reflective, or relational in nature, the husband's brain does not simply hear words. Instead, it begins a rapid internal assessment. This assessment includes understanding the literal meaning of the question, detecting emotional tone, predicting possible consequences of each potential answer, recalling past experiences of similar conversations, and estimating emotional risk. All of this happens in fractions of a second, but it still requires processing time. That processing time externally manifests as hesitation, fillers, or silence, commonly expressed as or neurologically. Male and female brains show differences in communication style. Research in cognitive psychology suggests that women generally use language as a tool for emotional connection, exploration, and bonding. Men, on the other hand, often use language as a tool for problem solving, information exchange, or action planning. When a wife asks a question, she may be seeking understanding, empathy, reassurance, or emotional validation. The husband's brain, however, may interpret the same question as a problem that needs a correct answer. This mismatch immediately creates cognitive friction. The husband pauses because he is trying to determine what kind of answer is required, emotional or factual. That pause becomes Another important factor is risk assessment. Over time, many husbands develop a subconscious awareness that certain questions carry emotional risk. The brain learns through experience. If a fast answer in the past led to misunderstanding, conflict, or extended discussion, the brain remembers this outcome. Psychology calls this learned avoidance. The brain then adapts by slowing down responses in similar situations. This is not manipulation or avoidance of responsibility. It is a natural survival mechanism. The hesitation sound is the brain buying time to reduce risk. Stress physiology also plays a role. Emotional conversations activate the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for threat detection. While the situation is not physically dangerous, emotionally it can feel threatening because relationships are tied to identity, security, and self-worth. When the amygdala is activated, the body can enter a mild stress response. In such moments, logical speech centers temporarily slow down. This causes reduced verbal fluency. The person knows what they want to say but struggles to articulate it immediately. The result is filler sounds instead of fluent sentences. Additionally, men are often socially conditioned from childhood to suppress emotional expression. Many boys grow up hearing phrases like "don't talk too much," "be strong," "don't explain yourself," or "silence is maturity." Over time, this conditioning teaches men that speaking less is safer than speaking emotionally. When faced with emotionally complex questions, silence or minimal sounds feel like the safest response. The becomes a socially acceptable placeholder that avoids vulnerability while maintaining engagement. There is also the phenomenon of internal translation. Wives often communicate in emotionally layered language. A single question may carry multiple meanings. For example, a question like "Do you even listen to me?" may not be about listening at all. It may be about feeling valued, seen, or prioritized. The husband's brain must decode this emotional subtext. This decoding takes time. While decoding, the verbal system stalls, producing hesitation sounds. Memory recall further slows response time. The brain quickly scans previous similar conversations to predict outcomes. This memory scan is automatic and unconscious. If past memories include arguments, misunderstandings, or emotional escalation, the brain becomes cautious. Caution slows speech. Silence increases. Fillers emerge. The husband is not ignoring the question, he is trying to avoid repeating a negative outcome. From a psychological defense perspective, functions as a buffer. Buffers are tools the brain uses to regulate emotional intensity. Just as people take deep breaths to calm themselves, verbal buffers slow conversations to prevent escalation. This is especially common in individuals who prefer harmony over confrontation. Many husbands choose emotional peace over verbal dominance, even if it means appearing confused or slow to respond. Cultural expectations also contribute. In many societies, men are expected to be logical, controlled, and unemotional. Expressing uncertainty or emotion openly can feel uncomfortable. Saying allows a man to express uncertainty without verbalizing emotion. It preserves his sense of control while navigating emotional terrain. It is also important to understand that silence or hesitation does not mean lack of care. In fact, it often indicates the opposite. A husband who does not care may respond quickly and dismissively. A husband who cares deeply is more likely to hesitate because he wants to respond correctly. The weight of emotional responsibility slows him down. Another layer is multitasking limitation. Men typically focus on one cognitive task at a time. If a wife asks a question while the husband is mentally engaged elsewhere, his brain must disengage from the previous task and reorient. This cognitive shift requires time. During this transition, filler sounds bridge the gap between disengagement and engagement. There is also ego preservation. Some questions challenge self-image, competence, or intentions. When identity is questioned, the brain instinctively protects itself. This protection often involves slowing responses until a non-threatening answer is formulated. Over time, becomes habitual. Habits form through repetition. Once the brain associates hesitation sounds with emotional safety, it uses them automatically. The husband may not even be aware he is doing it. It becomes a conditioned reflex. From an evolutionary psychology perspective, males historically prioritized action over discussion. Long verbal exchanges were not necessary for survival tasks. Emotional nuance evolved more strongly in female communication for social bonding and group cohesion. These evolutionary tendencies still influence modern interactions. Importantly, this behavior is not exclusive to husbands. Anyone placed in emotionally high-stakes conversations can exhibit similar hesitation. However, because marital communication is frequent and emotionally charged, the pattern becomes more visible in husbands. In conclusion, the mom response is a complex psychological phenomenon rooted in brain structure differences, emotional risk management, social conditioning, stress physiology, memory recall, and learned behavior. It is not stupidity, avoidance, or lack of intelligence. It is a protective, adaptive, and often unconscious response to emotional complexity. Understanding this allows couples to interpret silence not as disinterest but as processing. When this understanding exists, communication becomes softer, expectations become realistic, and relationships become healthier. This sound, small and humorous as it may seem, represents the human brain trying to balance love, safety, logic, and emotion in a single moment.